folks. It is a special dated edition because Carlos has plans coming up of PSA Hobby Talk with PSA Canada. Mr. Brad, thank you for accommodating me because there's some wrestling to be happening soon.
I know. I think it's awesome. Back to back AEW in Toronto. What could be better?
It's the first ever. Listen, I already got my AEW swag, but that'll be tomorrow night. That'll be part of that. I'll see if I can take a couple pictures, and I might include some of that on my Instagram. I think it'll be fun. It'll be thematically appropriate. I already have the Instagram picture for tomorrow ready to go anyway, the early one, but I may do another one later on, depending. I know Billy Cilio will be a little bit jealous because I already told him, what do you want me to say to some of your favorites? When I go over there and chat with them, it's like, what do you want me to say? He's left explicit instructions. So anyway, we got a couple of things we're going to update tonight. So thank you those of us who end up joining us here on special evening. Hopefully you caught last week we did update it. Same rules apply. If you need updates on anything, feel free to throw it in the chat and ask as always. Also, we'll do a couple of news and notes off the top, and then we'll start making some plans. We'll start feeding out some information over the next couple of weeks. Again, as we head into Expo, because there's going to be some big stuff happening, I think, with the Expo coming up here. And also for those checking out the replay, if you do leave any comments there, feel free to do so, because then that'll give us a chance to be able to discuss a little bit more. So I think that'll be fun. So from the bench, good evening. Absolutely. So Hockey Night. So we'll get to this question here in a second. I saw the video in question. I'll have a little bit of fun with this, but hang on tight for a minute. Let's do a couple of news and a couple of housekeeping items, and then we'll get into that. First of all, if you do check out the PSA Canada Instagram page, it's scrolling across the bottom. I do always recommend it to you as a way of getting up on the latest of what's going on. Right now, the latest pricing is up, which includes the bulk pricing. So you've got the pricing for the bulk TCG, which is a little bit less. So right now it's showing as $29 Canadian, sorry, $24 Canadian. Estimated turnaround 120 days. DV value, got it. And then also from the bulk. So there's 79 and older, and then 80 to present. So we've got this distinction between the two, but they're both $27 with estimated 120-day turnaround. So that is on the Instagram page. If you want to see it and check it later on, that is the spot. Very cool. Just going to grab this. In the meantime, anything you want to add to that, Brad? We obviously got the newest pricing on there and the turnaround and everything, so that'll be good.
Yeah, no, obviously we launched that on Friday, and it's been overwhelming the amount of calls, emails, and packages we started to receive already. Today was a great day. We picked up a ton of packages, and also even better, PSA just turned it up for us last week, and I think we have 2,500, 3,000 cards that are in transit right now from Santa Ana back to us, which we'll be getting out this week to all our customers, which is great to see. So
I was able to show a little bit of a better shot for the price points. Yeah. Just make it a little easier. So thank you, Sherry. It makes it a little easier to read. So there, I'll just leave it there for a moment just so you guys can check it out. But again, on the Instagram page, you always have access to it. So if you forget or want to double check or whatever, double check on the Instagram page because this is already up. This is the latest post and it's pinned so that you can check out right on the top.
Yep. And the other thing too, by the time the Expo rolls by, we'll have the PSA Canada website up and running, and you'll be able to check almost in real time, I should say, the status of your orders, which we'll be updating every 24 to 72 hours. So you'll be able to check all your statuses, which will make everybody happy.
I think that sounds good. Eric here says, what's an Expo? You'll find out later. But you know what helps find out Expo information a little bit sooner? If people like Sanderson Door, who once again generously is sponsoring the like button. Thank you, Eric, for reminding us all that the like button directly invoices you. And it does. For those of you who hit the like button, it is free, but I charge him. So do so. He needs to pay. He needs to pay in ways you can't even understand. It's important. So anything else you want to touch on then before I get into Hockey's question? Because it's kind of a fun one. It does expand. We can actually have a little bit of fun with the topic, but anything else you want to add here at current PSA Canada land?
Not really. I should mention just the shows again. I know we kind of do this every time, but just a little bit of an update. I am going to go to Moncton this Saturday just to kind of browse and see the setup. It's been a few years since I've been to the show in Moncton. So we'll be there on the 15th. I delivered some parcels this weekend, and I'm going to take in some more up for some customers. Then on the 29th, we will be in Montreal, set up at the Anti-Expo again. Mm-hmm. I think that's we've been there pretty much every year as PSA Canada, so that's great. And they've got some new ownership and new management that's taken over, so I expect even bigger and better things in the future from them. Also, Sherry will be here in Halifax while I'm in Montreal, and she'll be at the Halifax show, which is our monthly show here that we do. After that, we get November 10th, obviously 10th to 13th, the Expo, which is the biggest show in Canada. I'd still say my favorite show in the world, that's for sure, which I think will be rocking this time as well. So we'll be there then, and then off to, on the November 18th, we're off to Langley, BC for the Bosa show that Dale puts on. This will be our fourth show, third or fourth show that we're there, which we're super excited for as well. And then after that, November 26th, we'll be in Thunder Bay, Ontario. So that's kind of our calendar for the rest of 2022. But if anyone has any questions, like I said, reach out to us via email, Instagram, whatever it is, and ask some questions, but we'll be there taking people's submissions.
Beautiful, beautiful. Sounds good, sounds good. And I agree. I think Expo, though, I think this Expo in particular, it's going to be interesting. And I'll play it into Hockey's question a little bit because there's a couple of angles. Like I said, there's some angles. We can explore the space a little bit on this question. All right. So Hockey says, what does PSA Canada think of SCI's most recent video? And I'll give everybody a summary of that in a second. Is PSA Canada scared the way SCI paints the sentiments of business people in the hobby? Now, we're going to have a little bit of fun with this one. So Sports Card Investor's latest video was very much, it's my favorite version of Jeff Wilson. Sincere, earnest Jeff Wilson is my favorite Jeff Wilson. I was kind of hoping for some violin music in the background, though, to really add to the ominous tone of it. I was hoping, but, you know, it is October. We could have a little spooky season sound effects. That'd be kind of fun. So the sentiment that he was expressing was that he talked to some folks who were expressing concerns about, you know, economic factors, things that we have talked about and things that are a reality, things that I've talked about on my channel that are a reality. We don't ignore reality. And one of the reasons I made the last couple of videos I did, in particular the last one, is I wanted to ask the question some collectors of how they're responding to it. And the feedback I'm getting with the folks that are commenting are, they're not stopping collecting, but they're being a lot pickier. They're being a lot more careful. They're being a lot more particular, and they're focusing on value. Really, value is what it comes down to. That's why I mentioned when the price drops here happen, it's good. In reality, of course, we would always ask for more, but we know that they're going down in scale. It surprised me. The only part that surprised me was that SGC wasn't more aggressive. Because I know PSA, their MO has been, they've been moving down this graduated steps. You can kind of see these steps happening one after another after another. I do think at some point, bulk will be down in that 10, 12 sweet spot. That is my guess. Strictly a guess. That is where I think we'll end up, US. And then, of course, adjusted accordingly Canadian. And I think that'd be awesome for us. That'll be a good thing. But that doesn't mean everybody's going to send 1,000 cards. But it means somebody who was on the fence, they may be willing to send 5 cards or 10 cards, where otherwise they would have sent 0 cards. And that'll still kind of keep the wheels moving a little bit from that regard. But the economy is the economy. If people have other priorities and other expenses, you know, this is a luxury. At the end of the day, if we want to put it down to it, this is a luxury. And I'm always very transparent about this. This is an element of the hobby that I enjoy and I appreciate and get a lot of use from. But it's not necessary. And that's why I kind of tease when folks talk about some of the third-party graders, the miscellaneous was like, guys, a one-touch is like $3 or $4. If you just need a nice holder, and that's all we're doing is a holder, then a one-touch will work, like a top loader will work. Like there's a lot of great options that are a lot more economically efficient. This makes sense if it makes sense for you. And if it does, well then great. Here's one option of many and pick the best one that works for you. And want to add anything to that, Brad? Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. I think you summed it up. I mean, at the end of the day, there's certain factors that we can't control. We can control what's in our space and do what we want to do. So like I said, the price of items, the price of grading, all these things, we personally can't control. Mm-hmm. But based upon, you know, my 30 years in this hobby and in the business side of things, I see sales continuing every day. And that's what I like to see. You know, I love seeing this weekend, Golden Auctions. My friend Adam Martin and David Adams decided to pick up a very, very cool card. I don't know if you've seen it, but they bought an Honest Wagner, PSA 1.5 for 3.5 million.
A pittance.
Yeah,
I think it was a 3.7, but you know, who's counting? But who's counting?
Sorry, I got it mixed up there. But again, these are guys that are committed to the hobby. There's a guy, Adam started around the same time I did. I mean, he ran right through. He's at a store for 30 plus years now. But there's lots of guys like that are, you know, putting money back into the hobby, making splashes and keeping things rolling. So it's nice to see. Even at our store last week, I think I can check with Sherry, but I think AMG, we had one of our best weeks we've ever had from sales volume. Yeah. So things are still rolling along. So again, it is a luxury. Like Carlos, you summed it up perfectly.
Yeah.
This is something, and trust me, there's lots of people that come in and are looking to do them. Just hang on a little bit. Don't, if you've got a mortgage and you got all your other payments, don't buy luxury items right now. Just hang tight for a little while, do your thing, still enjoy it. We have guys that come into the store all the time or even call us for PSA, and they just want to, I said, come in and hang out for the day. You don't have to buy anything. Talk to the guys, look at the cards, do your thing. Like, don't feel obligated to make a purchase right now. We know in long term you'll make purchases down the road, but that's fine. So.
And I agree with that. And also, I do think that kind of to elaborate on that, and I brought the comment back up because, like I said, I think Sports Card Investor, and I want to really make this point. This is my opinion again. I'll state it as an opinion. Sports Card Investor understood exactly what he was doing when he made this video. He understood that this video, that's why I said my favorite Jeff Wilson is Ernest Jeff Wilson. Because I know deep down inside that while he may have heard people tell him that, he's thinking in the back of his mind, he's licking his chops and seeing opportunities and things. But he also understands that by making this video, one of two things will happen. He'll get credit for a certain segment of the audience that'll be like, oh, Jeff, at least taking, understanding, our plight. And then there'll be another segment of the audience that will literally be screaming at the top of their lungs going, because of people like you. And the best part is those people are making angry comments, and angry comments are fueling the algorithm. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do is go check that video and compare it to the video right before it, and you're going to see that in a day or so, he had double or triple the view count of the previous video. And look at, when I checked it, it was over 900 comments. And a bunch of them are like, we hate you, Jeff Wilson, or a variety therein. And here's the truth. That's just as good as we love you, Jeff Wilson. In fact, it's even better. Because the angry people post 2 or 3 times how mad they are. It's like, no, I really hate you. And then they reply to themselves, no, really, really hate you. And I was like, that counts. That's all. The algorithm is like, oh, this video must be popular. Send it to everybody. Send it to everybody. That's why I said, sincere Jeff Wilson is my favorite Jeff Wilson because it entertains me. But also to play into this. So that's a YouTube algorithm kind of comment that I make. That's the reason why I say, if you wish to support a channel, like people always use this in the negative context. But if you wish to positively support a channel or a video you like, the like button does help. The subscriptions do help. Comments do help. Don't just use it for the people you hate and actually help them indirectly. The ones that you hate are the ones that you're helping the most because you write all the angry comments that actually help bolster the video. And then you don't understand that you're as much to do. You're throwing fuel on the fire. You're making it worse. But the people that you like, you just, the odd comment here or there. It's like, guys, it works both ways. The other piece that I want to include on this is I don't think businesses that have sound business models have reasons to be concerned. Collectors, I don't think have reasons to be concerned. I think they're being more prudent, which is good. And I think they're being a lot smarter about it. But I think the dealers that understand that right now is not the time to be trying to squeeze every last dime, the pricing will be really important. If you price things well and correctly with the market as it stands today, I still think you can make sales. And I still think you can make money. The guys who are trying to squeeze and hold on and say, like, I can't possibly lose any money on any of these cards, then they're going to be sitting with inventory that's going to be gathering dust and wondering what happened. When the other guy at the expo, unfortunately, the guys who have to travel, I feel bad for them. But the guys that are local, if I was a local guy and I was going to set up at the show, my advice would be, you know what? Load up the dollar bins. Load up. Find $1 cards that you can make a little bit of money on, but load it up with some names and some decent stuff. There are going to be people who be like, I got like 10 or 15 bucks to spend. Go to the $1 box. Go to the 50-cent box. Load up on it. I'll cut you a deal. And you can still make some money on those. Right now, those would probably be very popular coming up here at this expo. The high dollar items, there will be a market for them. There will be people who will buy those. But I think a lot of folks are like, I want to participate. I still want to be there. There'll be some foot traffic, but it's like, no, provide them something that offers them something, offer them value, and then there will still be some business for you.
Yep, absolutely. And in the marketplace too, a lot of it's the ultra modern that's been affected the most, or modern, I should say, as well. But when you look at the vintage sales right now, they're still at all-time highs, and the demand is still there. So we can bring in anything from, on the hockey card front, anything from 51 to 75 in that range. As soon as it comes in, it's sold within 24 hours. So there's still, the market is very, very strong.
I agree. And Eric is appreciating that we're appreciating him, as always. Will Brad and Sports Card Investor be doing a pack battle at the expo? Maybe for a pack of MVP. We got to adjust it. We got to price it accordingly. Single pack of MVP each.
I think I mentioned it on your show, Carlos, but I love when SCI, when Jeff did his top 10 shows that he's attended since he's been back into the hobby.
Yeah.
And without a doubt, he was like, number two was pushing number one. Then he had the national, of course, as number one, but he was pushing the expo as number two. Even it was pushing the national. I mean, we know it up here. We're used to it. It's a great show, and it keeps on getting better and better. So,
Do you want to wager though on if he'll show up to this expo?
I know he wasn't at the last one. Right?
I would be the spring one. I understand, but I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't show up to this one. I would not be shocked.
I start to think he will. I think with no border restrictions at all now, with all the restrictions being removed, if I was him, I definitely would. Especially, he did mention in one of his videos too that he had even though the market is where it's at, he threw in we got 1,000 new subscribers in the last month. Which to market movers, which is nice.
One cheating thing though, don't forget he now has a $9.99 option.
Right,
it is cheaper. It is a cheaper option. So it's be like, so at which level, Jeff? At which level, Jeff? So that could be true, but still, kind of is like you're leaving out kind of an important detail. At what tier are we talking about? The $50 tier is one thing. The $10 tier still good, but it's another thing. It's a different thing. So real quick, good evening, name. Absolutely, Dave. Good evening. So Dave here has a question. What is pricing things well from Brad's perspective? So as somebody who does business as well as a dealer, what is pricing things well right now in this marketplace? What do you look at?
We look at, obviously, the world has changed now in the hobby that we look at comps. I mean, it used to be more, you go back, you look at your Beckett price guide, you look at online pricing, you use as much research, 130, but 130 point and comps right now is kind of where everyone goes to. And again, so it's a good question, Dave. When I really look at the big picture, price things to know that once how can I say this the proper way? So if a card sits in the store and we have it out at $300 and it doesn't move after 2 weeks, with the market that we have, it's priced too high. We've got buyers that are coming in that are flippers that want to buy and resell. We can move it to eBay and just let it run and see what happens. But we constantly adjust our pricings to make sure things do move. We don't want our store to be a museum. We've got a lot of cool pieces in there, and there's a few that I don't care if we ever move. And we talk about it with Sherry. Do we care if we ever sell that? No, it doesn't matter. But that's a very select few pieces. We want product to move. So we'll adjust our pricing until it moves. So if you see that card sitting there for $300 and it's not going to sell, we'll bring it down to $250. Then we'll bring it down to $200. Again, we want it to move. So,
yep. So let me scroll through here. Okay, Sports Car Radio predicting less vendors at shows. That's like predicting less money in the economy. It's not a bad prediction, but it's also kind of a lazy prediction. I can think of at least one person who basically predicted the same thing, and we don't like to give him any credit for anything, but he was on this back in July. But by the way, like it's not rocket science. It doesn't require that much. So Sports Car Radio doesn't have any amazing insight in that regard. The fact is, if the amount of cash being spent goes down, 1, and the amount per transaction goes down, 2, the dealers who struggle to actually adjust their pricing, 3, if they run into a handful of shows where they're not able to really go through their material, then all of a sudden the price of buying a booth at these shows becomes less attractive. 4, and that leads to less dealers. 5. It's basic economics. There were plenty of dealers when the money was flowing freely. When the money is flowing less freely, then some of the dealers who are operating on a very borderline business. That's very similar to what happened in the 90s when the last boom previous to this one ended. It was like all these card shops closed. That's bad. It's like it is, but it's like, oh, why did all those card shops close? Well, most of them had a very bad business model. It was a terrible business model, and as soon as the economic conditions were no longer favorable, they basically collapsed on themselves, and suddenly they had no money. Well, we're going to see a weeding out of weak business models, and the people who know how to adjust and know how to adapt, much like last time, will be the ones who will succeed the most. And also the people who have the pockets to be able to weather the storm and can adapt on the fly. Those two things together are the ones who are going to hang in. Having more dealers is not necessarily a good thing. Having quality dealers is a better thing. Having solvent dealers who have the resources to actually be able to deal with people and provide stuff at a price that works and still make money to be able to keep the lights on, that's better in the long run. I'd rather have 100 good dealers than 1,000 mediocre dealers.
I agree with you 100% on that. And if you look at now, I'm not exactly sure of the numbers, but if you were to ask Steve Menzies about the Toronto show, if there was less vendors, he would definitely be able to squash that for Toronto. I think there's a waiting list of, I don't know if the number is 50, 100, 150, it could be whatever. But there is a substantial wait list that wants tables for the Toronto Expo that aren't going to get in. So again, could that happen next year? Absolutely. But for this show here, there's a surplus of vendors. So
Yeah. I think for this show, we're still going to have plenty of vendors, and I think the foot traffic will still be good. Because, like I said, I know a bunch of people who haven't made it out to previous expos in the last couple, or maybe in the last couple of years, who are wanting to come down. So I still think we're going to get a decent amount. We'll have to see how the foot traffic plays out, but I think it'll be solid. Usually it's pretty good. Now, the question will be, my point will be how the money gets spent. I think people are going to be a lot more careful. They're not going to just throw money at the table and go, yeah, I'll take that. They're going to be like, okay, can we throw in something else? Can we adjust? They're going to try to wheel and deal a little bit. The dealers that are more amenable to that and are able to adjust to that, I think are going to do better than the guys who are sitting stringent and have to hold to that price line. Well, then good luck. You're going to be holding that inventory until the end of the show, and we'll talk to you on Sunday, and let's see how you're doing.
yeah, like we will be active at the Toronto show. We will be active buyers for the right guys.
There you go. So that's fair. Bobbles, good evening. Thank you for popping in. Want to make sure to hit the like button. Eric has to pay. That's right. That is right. Correct, Bobbles. Thank you for that. Novagora, how about the local show coming up? Any problems getting vendors? How are the show going for you guys?
Yeah, no. So we're actually at the Halifax Forum again, multi-purpose, which is a bigger area than the exhibition. Exhibition Park, we had 40 vendors, 75 tables. That was the max we could fit. We were always sold out. So at the Forum, we can fit 160 tables, and we can go up to like 50 or 60 vendors. So we're pretty close. With the Montreal show is going to affect it because we did lose 3 or 4 dealers there. Some guys have taken more tables, but I think it'll be close to a sellout again. So, and our Halifax show, we do it more or less as a non-profit show. We charge $20 a table, $2 admission till 11 o'clock. You get in free afterwards if you don't want to pay the $2 admission. And we build up a little kitty. So now we have a nice little reserve in our fund for the show, so we can weather a few bad ones if we hit snowstorms and people don't show up or whatever, or even do some more marketing. We're going to debate on what to do. So that's it.
Yeah, I will say though as well, at $20 a table, a lot more things become more viable. It's a really important point because the expo is not cheap. The National is not cheap. These bigger shows, Dallas isn't too bad from what I understand. Maybe kind of playing to the point here about Hockey's point about sports card radio. I don't like sweeping statements because I think some shows are going to weather this better than others. And what it's really going to come down to is what is the price point on a table? If you say to somebody that, hey, we're going to struggle a little bit, but at the same time, we're doing it $50 a table or $100 a table, well, there's some guys who can probably still swing that. You could make your $100 on those dollar boxes. If you've got enough stuff in your dollar boxes and are able to sell through enough of that inventory, you could still make some money doing that. Even $5 cards and $10 cards, if it's $100 a table. But if you're charging somebody $500 or $750 a table, they got to fly in or drive in from elsewhere, add the expense. You add all these expenses up. Being a national dealer right now, you'd be a little nervous. If a lot of this economics thing carry into next year, I'd be very nervous for Chicago. Just because it's not cheap. You got to fly in. You got to do whatever you got to do to get over there. That's going to be expensive because the National's not a cheap show to run. And we already know those tables are not cheap at all. So you've already got that price baked in. At $20 a table, well, listen, I have enough inventory sitting in a couple boxes here to run a $20 table, and I could probably make that profitable. It's not nearly as difficult.
Yeah, and shows did. The shows got oversaturated. The demand was there, so people kept on doing them. But if you have your local shows that have been running for 30, 40 years, those local shows will continue to go through the downs, through the ups. That's just the way it goes. So I wouldn't worry personally. The Toronto Expo is going to be around. It's going to be booming for as long as I can look into the future. That's my prediction for sure. Same as the National. But I do think a lot of these pop-up shows that were successful will be impacted. Like you said, how many guys can fly from show to show to show to show and actually make it viable? Probably not near as many. So
I think those dealers are going to find a very difficult time because those costs are going to add up. You simply cannot be a traveling person. I think if you're local, you're going to have a much easier time. We have a lot of people outside of the GTA. Let's put it this way. When the hobby was dead in the mid and late 90s, I was at the expo. There were plenty of dealers there. I bought and sold, and and we were lined up, and like, and that was during the dead era. We managed. So I think we'll be able to weather this one. It just may mean less dealers, and if that's the case, if Menzie finds that for the next show after that, then we switch over to one of the other halls that is a little better configured, and maybe that means each dealer gets a little more room to operate. The dealers that'll be there will probably, yeah, I'll just bring some more stuff and sell it, because if you price it right, they'll sell it.
Yeah, no, that's fun, and that's what we do at some of our shows here as well, where we went. When you give lots of tables and lots of space and you just tell people, they bring more stuff. And then a lot of the vendors, including myself, which loves going through the oddball items and finding unique things, people love that, and you can put out more stuff. Hey, let it rip.
I agree. And Dave here says a valid point here. A lot of the local shows we find, I agree with that. Half the guys setting up are doing so out of the house, doing something fun for the day. I agree. And I think that's why I gave that. That's why I used Brad's point about the table price. The table price is important. This cannot be overstated. If the table prices are reasonable, that opens up the weekend warrior who doesn't set up nationally at show by show by show. But you know what? Oh, this is my local show. You know what? I got some stuff back there that I'd be happy to sell, like 50 or 100 bucks a table. Yeah, we can do that. Or I get 2 or 3 people together, and between all of us, we pool and fill up a couple of tables. We could. Your expectations are also much lower. You're just hanging out, you're doing it, and you're having a good experience, and you might still be able to make some money. The guys who need to make a lot of money to cover their expenses, they're the ones that have a little bit more to sweat over right now. It's going to be tougher times, and that just has to be understood.
I agree. It's a good comment by Dave.
Yeah, I go to local shows in Halifax to see the cards and get out of the house. I definitely don't attend local shows for deals. Most dealers I find are out of touch with recent prices. Yep. And those ones are going to struggle. Those are the ones that are going to be sitting on inventory show by show by show. And even at the expo, over the years, even when things were hot, I knew some dealers that would constantly have, I'd check the showcase, and it was the same stuff. It'd be the same stuff for years. And it'd be like, do you want to move on the price at all? Would you actually like to sell it this lifetime while we're young? No? That's fine. Keep the price tag on. That the sticker is yellowing at this point because it's the same sticker that I was seeing 5 years ago, and you haven't changed it or adjusted it. Well, then you get what you get. But people were doing that in the 90s. People were doing that in the early 2000s. That isn't a new phenomenon. We're going to see it now. And the dealers who do adjust the price point, well, probably the card moved. Probably the card got off their table.
Yeah, you get to find your niche, and you get to find the dealers that you like to deal with. And there's certain guys at the expo, at the national, at all these shows where I smile, I look at their table, and I just glance slightly, and I walk away. I know I'm not going to buy anything from them. Like you said, you can see the yellowed stickers. It's the exact same setup forever, and you just move on. But those people are fine with that. You're not relying to pay their bills based upon what they do at the show. A little bit like Nova Groa said, it's like to get out of the house, to set up, to interact. They enjoy it. It's a weekend. That's fine. That's what makes this hobby so great.
Well, all I gotta say is, like, respect to each their own. We talked about the Spring Expo last time around. Like I said, my buddy Steve, and Steve Angel.
Absolutely.
He's got high end stuff, lots of stuff. He was going through stuff like it was going out of style because he's got a price according. And by the way, the Spring Expo was slow by expo standards during this market and everything. And like he had multiple stacks, multiple layers on all his showcases. And by the time it was done, he had to reshuffle stuff because he was down to single layers. I'm like, so how does this guy sell? He's got high-end stuff. It's expensive. It's not cheap. The cost of admission to see he can charge admission to see some of the stuff. And yet he managed to sell it. Isn't that weird how that works?
Yeah.
Price it appropriately and it'll go. If you just want to curate a museum, well, then so be it.
Yeah. And that's your choice. Back to we talk about it with the content. Yeah. You know what? Hey, it's your choice to watch what you want to watch. It's your choice to buy from a person or not. It's the dealer's choice if he wants to sell it or he doesn't.
That's right. I agree. From the bench here, gotta love the vendors who couldn't sell before and then pump prices up when the prices went up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there will be those guys, and there will be those guys at this fall expo, and they're going to complain later. Well, I couldn't sell anything. Why couldn't I sell? And then the guy beside him is going to sell out. Like, I can almost guarantee that there will be some of those guys, and there will be a person right beside them that will be selling stuff the whole weekend, have no trouble, and they're like, well, what is he doing differently? He's adjusted his prices. He lives in the current reality. He doesn't live in the then. He lives in the now. So adapt, adjust. Doug here, good evening. Halifax show, presently 95 tables and 33 dealers. I think that's here. I think that's solid. I think the idea of having to have hundreds and hundreds of tables, I get it. But and by the way, it's fun. And to be honest, to be fair, I grew up and cut my teeth on big shows. Maybe my problem, maybe how I got spoiled. The first card show I ever attended was the Expo in '95. So like I was used to hundreds of table shows. So for me, like a below 100 table show is a little awkward. Although later on I did visit mall shows and some of those other ones that were a little bit different. And there were some decent. There's a Toronto Expo that's every month. There's a couple ones there's one that's in a brewery. It's kind of out of my way, so I don't make it out there. But I guarantee you, those shows are probably like 30 or 40 dealers, and it's the same guys every time.
Yeah.
They're just out there to hang out. I guarantee it.
I always think of that. I think of the Ruby Foo show in Montreal. Like that's been going on, like, I don't know, I bet you since the 80s.
Yeah, that's agree. I agree. Some people should learn to take a loss and move on. 100%. Yeah, and they would do better that way. In the long run, they're better off having the cash and then just buying in at the new prices. I'm legit pricing stuff for the Moncton show this week currently, so my prices are current. I think that'll be to your benefit. That will be to your benefit. So Casey Tex, good evening. Hey guys, just joined stream. Could you quickly recap the SCI video? Very dramatic, no violin music. Very disappointing to me. Should have had some violin music. However, very dramatic. Some dealers are scared. Some distributors are scared. Some businesses are scared. Collectors are not scared. And businesses that are willing to adapt, also not scared. How's that for a summary? How's that for a recap?
That's absolutely
perfect. Got it? There you go. That is the answer to your question. Does AMG look to buy rare cards, or must cards AMG looks to buy have a good chance of being liquid? So you're focusing on liquidity, rarity, or a little bit of both?
To us, it's all about price. Doesn't matter. Yeah. So when we look at it from that standpoint, today, what did we buy today? Today we bought 5,000 comics, which didn't expect to buy, but that was an interesting purchase. Last week I bought 25 boxes of 91, 92 Upper Deck hockey. The price was right, so we bought them. I bought 50 sets of 1990 Score Young Superstars, 50 sets for 25 bucks, 50 cents a piece. We could sell them for $1. Absolutely. We also bought, what else did we buy? Last week we bought some high-end stuff. I bought another PSA 9 Jordan. We bought what else did we buy? Yeah, PSA 9 Derek Jeter, 93 SP, which was a nice purchase. And then Steve's been buying a ton of modern cards as well, from Trevor Lawrence to Ohtani to Aaron Judge. So we're all over the map. We will buy anything if we think we can turn it over. And we've got clientele that enjoys all aspects of the hobby. We have awesome times where we sell boxes for $5 that are filled with stuff. Everyone that knows us, when we set up at the shows here in Halifax, people have an absolute field day. And there's nothing that's better for us is watching people get a deal on something and leave there with a smile with the box, and they go home and they sort it, they do their thing. So it's awesome.
I think that's fair. Okay, say that. Great answer if I knew the context of the video. The title of the video is it time to panic? Yeah. The answer, the context I gave you is pretty much all you need. He went to the industry summit and he talked to some people, and some of them were freaked out. Why? Because their business models suck and they're in trouble. That's basically what he tried to relay and come across. Again, it's my favorite version of Jeff Wilson. Sincere concern for the hobby. Jeff Wilson is my favorite Jeff Wilson. But again, I need some dramatic music in the background. Really sell it. The way you can tell that it's sincere Jeff Wilson is that he doesn't do the hello. If he doesn't do the hello, that's serious Jeff Wilson. That's my favorite kind. Like I said, it's important. Big difference. Big distinction. But yeah, I think I understand the context of the questions, and I think they're valid questions. And we don't shy away from them because it's part of the reality. But that's why a lot of the tone of my recent videos on my own stuff is like, no, I'm trying to get the pulse. I'm trying to get the gauge. Predominantly, I'm talking to collectors. So they're pretty good about providing like, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. And like, I'm curious about stuff like that. I ask them, it's like, okay, so what are you doing? And I can tell you right now, straight up, I'm looking forward to the expo. I'm excited about it. I bought some stuff recently that I liked. I found some stuff that I think was priced well for what I wanted. But because I bought that stuff, I'm not just going to go reach deeper into the bag of money and find more money for the expo. Right now, I'm looking to maybe move some stuff myself. If I cannot, then my expo wallet's going to be light. It just is. And that's okay. I can still have a good time with that. I don't go to the expo necessarily, to be clear. I don't go to the expo necessarily to find cards anymore. It is very rare that I'll find something that I cannot honestly find on eBay 10 times over. It's rare. Not impossible, but it's rare. So a lot of the stuff that normally I would pick up just to have fun or to do whatever, or like, oh, well, I'm here, what the hell, I'll pick it up. I probably won't. I'll just adjust myself accordingly. It'll be like mostly my greatest enjoyment this time around is going to be fun in the sense that the content ideas I have And Brad and I have talked a little bit about it from one perspective. I've got stuff I'm doing for my channel. I've got stuff we're hoping to do for the PSA Canada thing. To be honest, I'm going to have a good time with that. That's going to be very entertaining for me. And just being around the stuff is going to be fun. And I hear, and we'll see, I wasn't promised this, but I hear the stupid AEW Spectrum was supposed to be ready by Expo. And if not, someone at Upper Deck, who remain nameless, will get an earful from me. Let me tell you that. They'll get an earful from me. I was promised things. Even though I wasn't officially promised, I was unofficially promised things. That's all I'm saying. That's where I get my enjoyment. That's where I get my enjoyment. That's where I get my pleasure. So even with all the rest of the stuff, it's like, I still find my fun. I did then. I do now. This shit's easy. It's easy for me.
And part of that, like part of being a collector is the hunt is enjoyable. Like it doesn't matter what area of the hobby that you collect in, whether you collect high-end PSA graded cards or you collect, like I've said, back to the 90s Upper Deck. There's still guys that, are collecting sets and building sets from the early 90s. It makes really no difference what level you are. Like I'm excited to go to the expo and I'm going to try to finish off my 64 tall boy set that I have PSA 7 or better. Mm-hmm. So that's what I really want to work on that. That's kind of my objective to go there. But I don't think I'm probably going to be able to find any of the cards there that I want for the price that I want to pay. Mm-hmm. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But like you said, anything, if you really want to just go purchase a card, you can find it somewhere out there on some platform. But the tough to get stuff, that's what makes it so fun. You can see, Nat Turner's chase for the PMG sets. Like there's an individual with, I don't want to say unlimited funds, but he's still chasing cards. I'm still chasing cards at a different level. Carlos, you're chasing cards. You want them for the right price. Mm-hmm. That has to be there. But that's what makes collecting so much fun.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree 100%. And just to be clear, and there's some great comments here, so we'll touch on them. Again, thank you as always for the comments. Just to be clear, I would be very satisfied with this expo because we got the Thursday, kind of the VIP early day. We got full day Friday, not for me because I don't consider mornings. They don't exist. They're not even a real thing. But we got Friday, we got Saturday, and then we got Sunday. And things wind down obviously on Sunday. So let's just say 2 full days, a Thursday and a Sunday. So the equivalent, maybe let's say 3 full days if we really take all the pieces and put it together. The point is, if I came out of that with 2 or 3 key cards that I'm really looking for, that would be an amazing expo for me. An amazing expo for me. And usually I find some cards that are in there. Like there's stuff there. I can almost guarantee I'll find something. And if the price is reasonable, like I could come out of there. Sometimes I've gone to the expo with thousands of dollars and end up spending like $100. Because it's like I had the money, but it's like you got to show me the right thing. It's not just something for the sake of buying. Show me the right thing, and I'm happy to do it. There's a right way and a wrong way. Hockey here says, Brad is a positive person without being a phony like the great curator. There you go. Positive outlook that is naturally is what we should strive for. That is a compliment. We'll take it.
I appreciate that.
CC says, true collectors won't panic. Very true. And knowledgeable people like Brad will find opportunity and won't panic. I agree. Novagro says, I actually feel bad for these COVID collectors who are new to the hobby. They're unwilling to do the work and just want other people to tell them what to buy. Now they're stuck with the cards. Yep. If you're not willing to put in some of the groundwork yourself, you're going to have a tough time. Bobbles here says, the lower the prices, the funner it becomes. It definitely can. Helen Ferrari costs the same as Civics. More people would own one. We can have more fun at better prices. I don't know. If I think if Ferrari costs the same as Civics, people would complain about it and say, wait a minute, the durability of Ferrari isn't that great. Oh, no. At that point, you'd be better off with the Civic. The point of the Ferrari is it's supposed to be luxury. That's the idea. It's like you let it sit in the driveway and you only drive it around when you want to vroom vroom. That's the whole point. So Nova, that's true in all areas of life. Yep. Easy money, something for nothing, etc. Yep. Fair enough, Dave. I've been chasing Ken Dryden cards for 46 years. It can become an obsession and great distraction at the same time. Very fair.
Yeah.
There are 2 cards that I thought were on reach in 2021, but I'll be hunting for them at the upcoming expo, given the certain price declines. Yeah. And the hope is like, I've got some sets and some projects I'm working on. But if I'm being realistic, I'm going to the Sports Card Expo. Hockey predominantly rules the roost in that space. However, I can still buy some vintage baseball here and there. I've got a 63 Fleer set that I'm working on. Hopefully I can find a couple of singles. Last time I did. Last time I found about 20 that I was able to buy in one lot. I did well. So hopefully I'll be able to do that again and knock some more off my checklist. That'd be awesome. I'm working on a 53 Fleer Bowman color set. That would be, so 53 Bowman color set. So hopefully I can add some more to that, but I got plenty. It's fine. I'm not too worried about it. I've got about 25% of the set. That means I got plenty of singles to chase after. But again, it's price. The price matters because that's going to be make it or break the deal. If I don't see it, well, I'm going to a predominantly hockey show. I'm not expecting it. But if I find it, it's a pleasant surprise. And that's a great way to kind of come in without these crazy expectations and be able to just have a good time with it.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm working on that 2000. I think I talked about it many times, but 2016-17 Orange Platinum Auto set. They're numbered out of 15. There's 45 cards in the set. There's a Nick Schmaltz is one of the 3 that I need. Mm-hmm. And Nick Schmaltz, there's one that's listed on ComC for, it's a BGS 9.5. It's listed for $395. The card's worth $50, maybe $100 on a good day. Mm-hmm. You can't make an offer. You can't do it. I've been looking at it on ComC for 3 years. It's one of the 3 that I need, that I've been chasing since 2016. There's many times I said, I'm just going to, and I'm like, no, because that would defeat the whole purpose of building a collection. You have to build it for the right price or don't bother at all. Mm-hmm. Many times I almost clicked, I'm just going to end this. Nope. It's still sitting there for $395. It drives me insane. But I'm hoping to find one of those at the expo as well.
But your point, though, is like one of the key pieces of collecting. To your point, one of the things that I worked on, and unfortunately it became priced out of whack for the rest of them. I have a 2018 Topps Chrome UFC autograph set. There are 33 cards on that checklist. 33. I have 31 of the 33. I am missing 2. One of them is Sean O'Malley, which is the most expensive one, and I refuse. I'm stubborn. I don't want to pay the going rate on those still. Like, it bothers me. And by the way, great fighter. I've gotten a chance to watch him. Like, he's a great fighter. But I'm sitting there like, I'm not paying that price. You guys are out of your damn minds. But that's one. And the other one, I think is so short printed, I haven't seen one. So I would happily buy it. It's just like, I'm not sure it exists. It might actually be 32, but the checklist has 33. So the point is, one of them, I can literally go on eBay and hit a buy now, right now, and it is done. Because it is available. The other one, though, I might have to pay up because I'm like, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Does it exist? Question mark? That's the other one is the one that fascinates me. I believe it's Mark Hunt, I think, is the other one that I'm looking for. I'm like, does that exist? Because I haven't seen one. Sean O'Malley, I can get all day long.
It's so true, though. I thought the same thing. That out of the 3 that I'm missing, I think 2. One, I know, the Nick Schmaltz, it does exist.
Yeah.
I believe it was 4 for the longest time, and the other guy was Kasperi Kapanen. And all of a sudden, one day, someone just must have gave up on they listed it, and there was 2 of them. So I bought both of them because I'm trying to do. I want the whole set graded by PSA. Obviously, I'd love to get PSA 10 for all of them, but I'm struggling. I got 2 Austin Matthews. They're both PSA 9s, and I don't, with the price of them now, I don't think I'll ever have a third. I'm not paying $5-10 grand, whatever they are now. So. Gotcha.
I'm with you. So Novagora says, for the record, Ken Dryden is a major dick and hates the sign. I can believe it. I've heard some stories about Ken Dryden being tough to get. 707 has made a living from the last 2 cards at 300%. Yes, it has. Yep. It's frustrating when a thin-skinned seller gets offended by a realistic offer, and that's fair. But the thing is, I don't give them any excuses for this because realistically, especially if it's eBay, you can set an auto reject. So like if you're just not going to take that price, you can set an auto reject. On ComC, you can set a minimum threshold where the offer has to be a minimum of this, otherwise it won't even go through, and you don't even have to deal with it. I do that with a lot of stuff. Like I know I've got some stuff that is priced flat out too high, but I don't care. I'm leaving it at that price. Like it doesn't charge me anything. It just rolls over. So it's like, nope, I'm leaving it at that price. Either the world will come up to my price or I'll just hang on to it. It's fine.
Do not tell me that you own Nick Schmaltz. Now that would be bad.
For you, $394. Just because I like you, Brad. Just because I like you.
There you go.
But it's one of those things where like I just decided to put it up. I don't have dozens and dozens of auctions. I usually will just run maybe about 10 or 15 at a time. And for the most part, they sell. Like most of my prices are pretty reasonable. Usually my tactic is to look at what recent comps are and to look at what some of the ones that are listed. And I'll go right about kind of not necessarily the cheapest one, but close to it. I want to make it competitively priced, and or I'll do a little bit higher and I'll get like a best offer. It's like if you offer me a reasonable price, happy to make a deal. I did that with the Josh Allen PSA card that I had. I had the rookie Josh Allen that I had graded that you guys sent over, and once we had that in hand, I got to squeeze it for another $50 or $60. But I was like, it happened to be a deal in Mississauga. Well, I'm in Mississauga. So that means I could literally throw it in there, track it, and boom, it's there the next day, and we're done. Transaction's over. Oh, yeah. You know what? For $50, $60, no, let's get this transaction done. Easy, no problem, no mess, no fuss. Mm-hmm. That was worth it to me. Just to sell it, just to get the deal done and know that it's completed. Now, let me kind of pose an open question, and Brad and I'll just chat here for a minute. We'll go for a little bit longer. We usually go about an hour if it's just a regular episode, and this will be one of those. But I'm open to anything you guys in the chat want to chat about. One thing I'll ask you. Obviously, some of you have touched on it. I'm curious what your tactic is right now. I know some of you mentioned it. Where are you sitting at? What's your strategy at the moment? Are you kind of just sitting back, waiting for opportunities as they come in and trying to pick them off here and there? Are you just holding back in general, taking care of other business? What is your kind of tactic at the moment where we're sitting? I misold eBay when almost everything was auction. That's fair. Some of it was frustrating though, because if you listed at the wrong time, it was good as a buyer, but as a seller, it can be frustrating when you've got all these watchers and everybody's just sitting back and nobody does anything.
Yeah, for years now, we've been running a weekly auction on eBay. So we run it from Sunday to Sunday. It ends Sunday night on reserves. There's great deals to be had at times. Some stuff goes for way more. We just look at the whole average of it. But I can tell you from eBay, I have a weekly Zoom call with eBay, and they want me to list more items for buy it nows and slow down on the auctions. So eBay is pushing that front to have more of a selling platform over running the auctions. And they're trying to tell me I will do better in the long run. I'm still old school, kind of like you, Nova Grower. I love the eBay auctions. I think it's great. It's exciting. We enjoy it. I love watching the items end. All of a sudden a card's sitting there at $50, and then you win that last 3 seconds, it can go up to $300. Or sometimes you're like, oh, this is going to move, and it just stays right where it's at. You never know. So we this week I think we ran 125 or 150. This week we have 50 up. Next week we'll have 100. To me, 75 is the perfect number on reserved auctions of cool, unique items as well. Some of them go for $5. Some of them go for as high as 4,000 or 5,000. Depends on what it is. But we try to have a good mix. So I'm with you, Nova Grower. I like the old school eBay auctions.
Well, I think maybe kind of to eBay's point though is that I'll put it to you this way: as a buyer, here's the strategy. I know for a fact that if it's an auction, I've got a much better shot at winning the thing much cheaper. Like in almost every single instance, I end up having to pay more for a buy now best offer. And when I'm selling, I always do better with a buy now best offer. So I can't blame them because eBay makes more money if the stuff sells for more. So I can't blame them for wanting to direct you in that way. So I understand. Are the bid snipers taking a bite out of eBay final sales? Yeah, they are. That's why I say, like, if it's an auction, look, as a buyer, I love auctions. Why? Because I have an eBay sniper that I use. And it works really great. I can set it up, and almost always it goes for much less than my maximum. But if it's a buy it now best offer and you kind of force me to have to negotiate back and forth with you, we'll usually end up starting a lot higher than I would have. But if it's an auction, I could have that number in my head. I almost never, unless the thing goes completely out of whack. Occasionally that'll happen, but most of the time I'll get it for way cheaper than my maximum if it's an auction.
Yeah,
that's usually how it goes for me. I'm told there's a flood of material hitting auction in the next 6 months, hoping that's true, and ideally there's some second-tier pre-war Hall of Famers to slip through cracks. Well, if some people are running short on funds, I can see that. If it's going to depend on how deep the pockets are of the folks that are hanging on to it. So I think that's what we'll have to see. So from the bench here says, you guys ever find the stuff from Canada, football in particular, sells significantly lower on auction than U.S. items? I had quite a few sell for 20% less than the USA auction counterparts. So I think it's an interesting question. The only thing I would point out, though, is that since eBay is a global market, I buy football stuff, and I've gotten it cheap from the U.S. So I don't think the originating place is necessarily the key, as much as it is can you get enough eyeballs on the product to be able to sell the product. That's the part that I think is the bigger factor, because people will buy from me as a Canadian seller as long as the price is fair and as long as the shipping is not completely out of whack. As long as those two things are in place, they'll bid or they'll make an offer, and we can usually come to some kind of a deal. Some of them are a little stubborn about it, but I understand. I get it. How'd all those patches you got from me do on Sunday night? The raw one was taking off last time I checked. Ooh.
Oh, is that where the Patrick Waugh Pearl came from? Yeah, I'll talk to you about it this week. Yeah, we had the Patrick Waugh Pearl patch. I didn't even know that was in there. So,
Okay.
yeah, that one did really well.
You know what you guys need? Instead of worrying about what the highest price is, you know what you need in your life? More Dufex. This came in a ComC order that I got. So I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the Griffey Team Pinnacle. Dufex, guys. Dufex.
I like it.
That's the stuff. By the way, this stuff's not expensive. It's not expensive at all. You can get this stuff pretty cheap, but it's fun. I'm a big fan of Dufex myself. I can see a lot of buy now sitting around forever. Anecdotal, people are biting. Yeah. Now what happens is I don't like buy nows, and I'll tell you. So aren't biting. Yeah. I'll tell you though, I don't like buy it nows by themselves. I prefer like best offer to me is the thing. Best offer is the thing because I'll give you an example, and I can tell you what it is because frankly, it's not a concern of mine right now. It's something I have to reach out to them. There is there is a autograph card in the wrestling thing that there is the Superfractor 1 of 1 is on there. I have all the other ones. I have everything else to complete the rainbow except for the 1 of 1 Superfractor. Now, for most of them, I've paid like 20, $30, like even some of the rarer versions. But the super factor is there. It's there for $999. And I'm like, you're out of your damn mind. But it's a buy it now without a best offer.
Yeah.
Without a best offer. And I'm like, what's the point? It's all or nothing. It's like, I'm not paying $1,000. It's not even a basis of negotiation. Like, what are we doing here? It's one of those things where at some point I'm going to be like, dude, seriously? Put a best offer thing on here. Then at least we can initiate a dialogue. Even if we don't agree, we can at least initiate it. As it is right now, like 1,000, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have about as much incentive as anybody to try to finish my rainbow, but it's like $1,000. The answer is no. Good day. I wasn't looking for end sale prices. That's fair enough.
Yeah. So one thing I should too, I do think there's going to be, with the amount of cards that are hitting the marketplace back from the backlog that PSA had, which again, if you listen to the PSA podcast, last week, sorry, Kevin Linné, the president of PSA, was on and he talked about it. And the backlog is more or less all done. They're just working on, he flat out said they're working on collecting payments to get the last of the cards out, which some people are behind that they're dealing with now. So there's a ton of cards that are going to hit the marketplace and that are coming back from the grading companies. So I think it's going to be fun. Like I think Dave mentioned here, yeah, you're going to be able to find some deals out there because people are going to be holding a lot of inventory, and some of that ultra modern stuff now that was graded over the last 2 years is not going to sell for very much. I remember going back to Cleveland National in 2000 or 2001, buying it was $5 slabs at the time. And there was tons of them everywhere. It's $5 PSA slab cards. Didn't even matter what they were. I could bring them back and sell them for $10 here. People just wanted that's a graded card. Yeah, I'll give you $10 for that. No problem. Didn't matter what the card was inside it. So there is going to be a lot of that hitting the marketplace. That's for sure. I think the output's 65,000 cards a day right now.
It's thereabouts, yeah. It's up there. Now I will say though, like that's also going to mean that eventually it'll become common enough that the premium will go away. But it's back to kind of what we've talked about before, and what I've said before is that the quantity of stuff, because some people obsess about this stuff, and it's always been kind of weird to me. It's like, oh, but because now the term du jour is the junk slab era. Too many slabs, and it's like, what's the problem? And it's like, but there's so many. The stuff that's good still sells. The junk wax era didn't prevent cards from ever selling for a high price ever again. That isn't what happened. I was there, I assure you. It was 1991 Donruss did not prevent 1993 Topps Finest Refractors from selling. They sold just fine. People gravitated towards the stuff that wasn't printed in as much crazy abundance, or the stuff that was really hot where the demand was there. If the demand is there and the supply cannot meet it, then the price will still be there. With the slab cards, just because a bunch of people slab stuff that had no business being put into a slab, doesn't change the fact that there's some stuff that does have business being in a slab that will still sell for a premium because it is. Mm-hmm. The other stuff, you just ignore it. Yeah. It's there. It exists.
And you can see, and people are getting smart. People that are submitting cards are getting smarter. They're taking the time to look at their cards. They're going over them. We see the amount of orders that are coming back, and I look and I say, oh, geez, like this order was a lot of 10s. It's just guys, including myself, everybody's looking at their cards better, right? You're taking your time. You're not just sending them. At $10 a card, it was more or less, you know what? I'll fire it in. I'll take a chance on it. But when it's $30 a card, $40 a card, $50 a card, it's like, I'm going to take a better look at this card before I send it in. So we can see that. We can see the amount of cards that are coming back, and people are getting good, which is great to see.
And I think as the bulk rate does creep down, we will start getting some of those cards back into the cycle because certain things will suddenly become more viable again. And we can expect to see that, but that doesn't necessarily have an impact on what you're submitting. If you're submitting quality stuff or you are looking for certain things to make it work for you, well, then do that. Use some scrutiny, be picky, send in stuff that makes sense to you. Don't waste your money on stuff that doesn't, and then you'll probably be happier overall with your results.
Yeah. I think like I've got a box here of maybe the certain guys that I collect, I bet you there's the rookie cards in hockey starting from 70, 71 up to 88, 89. But I have a stack of probably, I'd say 400 or 500 cards that I want to get PSA slab, but I'm just waiting until that price comes down just a little bit more. Because again, they're mine. They're no rush. I know what the grades are going to be. They're all like 1 to 4s from Messier's, Borks, Halls, Iserman's, Coffees, Lemieux, guys like that I just off-grade condition because I still love buying those cards. So whenever we buy a collection, if there's an Eisman rookie that's beat up in it, I pull that out, I put it in the box. So at some point here in the near future, I think once the next level comes, which again is my personal thought, there will be a lower price point at some point, then I'll submit those cards. So
I think it's fair. Dave says, I still laugh when I see an 85 tops Nolan Ryan PSA 7. Why? It doesn't even fit in an album page. I don't think you're worried about putting those in your album pages. But fair enough. Buy gold refractors. More like it if it's gold, or am I off? Are you talking about gold prisms or gold refractors? I'm partial to gold refractors, but it also depends on the year. Certain years, I think will go for more. Other years, not so much. Gold prism right now is the hotness. Gold prism these days is the hotness. But again, not everything. It's one of those things where they're like, oh, gold prism. It's like, oh, just because it's gold prism doesn't mean. Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Yeah.
Like, it's become a running joke. Go ahead.
We bought nice, this is a little plug for Ultra Pro, but Ultra Pro just put out, and they have sheets now that can go in front of an album. So it's a for PSA cards, it will hold 4 graded cards.
Yep.
They just pop into the sheet really nicely. And so if you're working, say you had a set of, I don't know, your 84, 85 OPG hockey, and you had it in a binder and you wanted one page to go on the front, and you wanted your Yzerman, your Gretzky, your Neely, your Gilmore, whatever, graded. They pop in, it can go right inside the binder. They're very, very cool. For me, the collector, I love seeing them. So if you have some graded cards in your collection, because you always wonder, what are you going to do? You're going to put the graded cards. If you want your set in an album, what do you do with the graded cards? Put them in a separate box somewhere else? These sheets are great. Very impressed with Ultra Pro.
Yeah. Now, I wonder, though, because I feel like I've saw those before. I wonder if maybe they did them for a while, stopped doing them, and maybe started doing them again. Because I feel like I've seen those. And I thought Ultra Pro did that previously. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, they had some different things, but these are actually like, they're thin and they're very efficient. They're well done. They're well made. So when you pop the graded cards into them, you can see like they're not popping out, just the way that they slip in are good.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds fair. But yeah, I have to see. But one of the things that I was mentioning just about that is the idea that just because you grab the prism, the problem is that because some of the brands, if we're talking prisms, refractors is refractors, because right now Topps stopped producing for some of the different brands. In hockey, we've only got so many gold refractors because Topps was only in hockey for a certain period of time. So it was a little bit more limited. But then we go take Prism, obviously with Panini having brands in basketball, briefly in hockey, very briefly, and then also having brands in baseball. You've got all these. Then the licensing becomes a thing, right? It's a gold Prism, but it's unlicensed. Well, if it's unlicensed, then people are less interested. I took advantage of that. I was buying Juan Soto gold Prisms super cheap. Nobody was interested. If that market ever catches up, it'd be kind of fun for me, because it's like, well, I already got about a dozen of those, maybe a little more. It's like, you're more than welcome to come shop by me when you all decide to bump up the price on those. Because surprise episode tonight. Not exactly. Last episode we did mention that it's going to be Tuesday this week. It's going to be Tuesday this week. We'll be back on Thursday next week. I've got a little bit of scheduling conflict, a little bit of wrestling coming up here in the next couple of days here in Toronto. But we'll be back on Thursday next week like normal. So why don't we wind her down? We'll do a couple of last comments. If any of you guys want to get in a last comment or two, feel free to do that. Thank you as always for hanging out and joining in. Some great comments tonight. Great chat with everybody, and good evening, Hobby Cop, and thank you for joining in. If you do check it out on the replay, like I mentioned before, if you got any questions pertaining to any of it, we've talked about mostly hobby stuff tonight because a lot of the PSA stuff is straightforward. We know what it is. Check out the Instagram if you want to see the latest prices from PSA Canada about submissions, turnaround times, prices, all the different categories. It's all there. There's a post that's pinned. You can check it out for yourself anytime. Also, if you got any questions in general about anything hobby related or anything grading related or questions about that, you can put it in the comments section, and then it'll be read by PSA Canada and they'll respond, or we'll touch on it in the next episode, or both. It just depends on what the question is.
Yeah, no, that's it. And one other thing too I did want to bring up is that right now, I mentioned it earlier, all the June cards and July, things are really rolling out of PSA to come back. So, but in saying that, packs and tickets are still taking a lot longer. We have tickets that we submitted in June that are still in the grading stage. Some of them are actually, we have one order that's still in the research stage. So I did talk with PSA today about it, and they are backed up. Again, when they took on these tickets, it's a new thing for them as well to do. It takes a little bit longer. So if we are going to be accepting tickets still, but when we accept them, we're going to be very clear. They'll get done. They're secure while they're there. If you're in a rush to get them back, then we're not interested in taking submissions for tickets or packs right now. So
Yeah. And just as a general thing, and again, the idea here isn't to discourage business. It never is. But it's always to try to be as forthcoming as possible. I'm always hesitant with any new grading category. You basically are a guinea pig early on because it's they got to figure out refine their process. Even though they know they can do it, doesn't mean they've come up with the most efficient way to get stuff from point A to point B. So PSA has introduced the Funko Pops. That's upcoming. I wouldn't be at the front line to run to send Funkos right away, right in the front line. You know, let's maybe let some other people have first crack at it, see how it goes, see how you like it, see if they refine the process, maybe tweak some stuff in between. But look, if you like gambling and you're into it and you really want to get your stuff in first front of the line, hey, have at it, my man. I'm not worried about having a low serial number. I'd rather have it after they've had some time to refine it a little bit and get comfortable so that I know that I can rely upon those turnaround times. They're estimated for a reason. They don't. It's not even demand. It's also just did they refine the process. Cards, they more or less got figured out for the most part. There are the occasional exceptions, but cards are cards. As long as it's under regular categories. But tickets, Funkos, all kinds of other stuff that is coming up here. Video game grading, which is going to be a thing with WADA coming up as well. That's still relatively new industries for a lot of these things, and we don't know if they've perfected the process, the technique quite yet. Doesn't mean you can't do it, but I'm just saying be a little hesitant. Be aware of that. That's going to be a key piece for you.
Yep, and that's it too. And so for 2023, the start of 2023, if all goes well, we're working on things with WADA, with Funkos, the big question marks, shipping across the border, etc. And those are things that we're working on now. We'd love to be able to do it. I'd love for PSA Canada to be that, more or less Collectors Canada, maybe at some point. If we can keep on rolling with that we can be their agent for all the categories they do, because it's exciting. It's the company we want to be affiliated with. So we'll just keep on growing with them and learning every day. And I think you're going to see part of the whole grading process coming in the future is going to be even more transparent. Obviously, there's a lot of things that, PSA doesn't want people to see. But I think we're all going to learn a fair bit more in the near future about how the operations work and the ins and the outs. And they're listening to our feedback. When we get feedback here and you talk with me and Carlos and your ideas, then when I relay that back to PSA, they're taking all that information in. So as we keep on growing together, we'll get things better.
I think that sounds good.
Hobby Cop's comment there. He got his Jim Thorpe.
Yeah. So thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. And I'm down the States. Picked up my draw Jim Thorpe rookie. We'll get a grade when I'm back with some other vintage football. Good stuff. Look forward to hearing about it. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you, everybody, joining in on a special Tuesday edition. We will be back on Thursday next week, like normal. So we'll be back, and you'll get the announcements and everything. Follow the Instagram because you get a little post announcement when the episodes are going to happen. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the little bell icon and then you'll get a little notification when it's coming up. That'll give you a little extra heads up. And otherwise, if you could like the video on your way out, I will charge Eric.
Awesome.
He will pay. He will pay so hard. So hard. See? Perfect timing. Almost like I planned it out. Have a great evening, guys. Appreciate you, and we'll catch you next week.
See you, fellas.